Hi, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Anita Fuentes with Fuentes Evangelism. I'm going to go ahead and take the time out to tell you about my testimony. I really believe you're going to be ultimately blessed hearing it and may know that there is extreme hope for you or maybe a loved one. Well, let's go ahead and get started. I'm 32 years old. I was born in Boston, Massachusetts, and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. I was raised Catholic for a very long time, but never got into the religion. My mom was a single mom for a very long time, and that's because my biological father had left us when I was 2 years old. And he left my mom with my older brother, me, and my younger sister. We were approximately a year apart. And with the background that my mom had, being an abused child for many years and just suffering a lot of rejection and belittlement, she really carried all of that baggage into her single life, being a mom, a new mom, and really being by herself. We had a very hard childhood from as long as I can remember. And starting from the age of 7, I was really placed with a lot of responsibility, being the oldest child of the house. And what that meant is that I was in charge of anything from getting the house cleaned up to cooking and making sure that things were tidied up. And when anything wasn't done to an expectation that my mom held, I was extremely punished. That punishment included 2x4s, hitting, punching, slapping, kicking, extension cords, hitting with anything that my mom could put her hands on, even down to stepping on me and locking me in a bathroom. And it really carried on for many years. I was rejected, belittled. I really experienced a lot of pain and suffering and sorrow, sadness, and really loneliness throughout my childhood years, all the way up into the age of 18. When I was 18 years old, my mom ended up kicking me out. It wasn't the first time, but at that specific time that she did kick me out, I knew it was going to be the last. I ended up walking away from that point, never to return. And I really just couldn't handle the life that I had or that I was living with, even with my siblings. They had all turned against me, anything to please my mom. And it was really hard to be accepted by her. But again, she had a childhood that was really horrid, that's all she knew. From that point on, I was really needing money. I didn't have anywhere to go. I ended up staying with a lady that we ended up knowing at our Catholic church. And she actually took me in, and really sweet lady, but I didn't care for her. I actually took advantage of the fact that I was with her, stood with her for about a couple of months, and afterward met up with a coworker, 12 years my senior. And from that point on, I got into stripping at a local nightclub. And I was stripping probably 5 to 6 times a week just to get some extra cash in. From that point on, I was really turned on to the fact that I could use my looks and get into modeling and maybe even acting. And so with me moving in with this guy, we ended up moving to California to pursue this dream that I had. The dream was more just getting the money and really getting the attention that I so desired at that time. And I thought for sure that if I would make enough money and be famous, that I would in turn be able to turn back to my mom and say, hey, listen, here you go, here's some money. And she would in turn accept me for what I've done. And unfortunately, it really it really was the beginning of a lifestyle full of drugs and alcohol and anger and idolatry and witchcraft. And I was really going on a downward spiral. At the age of 19, I had my very first abortion. And by the time I was 22 years old, I actually aborted several babies. And my life was just going nowhere. And I was desperate to find acceptance, and I was very angry inside. I would want to prove myself to anyone, to anywhere, even to the point that I would see if I can bully guys. I had so much anger wrapped up inside me that I would try to be very intimidating, and unfortunately I was very good at, I would use knives to intimidate, even down to fist fighting. And unfortunately, that kind of broke a little bit when I ended up partying at an all-night drug and alcohol party. And on the way home that day, I had an anxiety attack. It was my very first anxiety attack, and I didn't know what it was, but it surprised me. And after that, I just ignored it. I just went on with the life that I was living and continued drinking and smoking and just doing whatever I was doing. And by the time, I want to say maybe a few weeks after that, actually, it was shortly after that, I was getting high on marijuana. And when in the midst of me getting high on this marijuana, I had a severe panic attack. And looking back, I was scared. I didn't know what was going on, and I had hyperventilated. I really thought that I was dying. And anybody who's ever experienced a panic attack, you really think you're dying. You're having a heart attack. And from that point on, I had no idea where my life was going to turn, but it was literally turning for the worse. I started on a life that included tormenting spirit of fear from that point on. I had stopped drugs because I thought for sure it was a drugs that I must have took something bad. So I said, that's it. I vowed never to do drugs again. But by that time, it was too late. The spirit of fear had came in with a vengeance. It was not letting up, and it had no mercy on me. Approximately 5 years after moving to California, I ended up meeting a man who in turn was going to be my husband. We met, and 6 months later after meeting, we actually got married. There was something very different about this man. He actually showed me he cared about me, and I fell in love with him. The love that I knew anyway. And we ended up getting married, and shortly after we got married, actually on the day of our wedding night, we conceived. That was not part of the plan, but we ended up conceiving our first child together. And once we found out, a few weeks later, I was petrified. He was excited. He had 2 kids prior, and I vowed not to have kids anytime soon. The reason why at the time was because my mom had talked so much down to me, and one of my biggest fears was making what she spoke to me come true. One of which was that I was going to be a mom with a lot of kids and on welfare, not going anywhere. So I really vowed to make it famous and to not have any kids at all. And if I did, it wasn't going to be till I was 30s, maybe my 30s or 40s. So finding out that I was pregnant at the age of 23, I was not in my plans. But, my husband, again, knowing the man that he was, wanted to keep this child. I was not interested in keeping the child. And I even talked him into driving me to an abortion clinic. And when I did, he actually stopped me in the parking lot.